Welcome to this week's astrology, and there is a lot happening today, being Sunday the 13th, but we're going to talk about this week as a whole through to the 19th of April, aka next Saturday. First of all, today we have the Virgo Full Moon, which is at 29 degrees, the penultimate degree of Virgo. We have the sun sitting with Chiron, lending its light to this full moon. And the sun is in a position called Gandanta, meaning it's working with a karmic knot. So there can be a sense of undoing happening with this full moon. Um, and even a little bit of tension that stirs, which is there to bring about healing, which I'll talk about in a second, which really relates to the Virgo full moon. Venus also stations direct today in Pisces, which means that she, as a planet in the sky, is actually stationary. She won't start moving for a couple of days, but while she is stationary, she's exalted, meaning she is at her most uh, helpful, harmonious, graceful energy in Pisces, and she's at her strongest. So, what does this mean? Today, the energy is stacked. And if we break it down, a lot of what is going on and a lot of what this week is demanding, if you couldn't feel it last week, is rest. It's almost this sense that rest is a discipline, and rest actually is really important, not just for our mental sanity, but in order to be in life, in order to be in the cyclical nature of life. Like, we are not designed to go, go, go. And that is the narrative that gets spun by culture. And also when you look at like how we praise success within this culture, a lot of it is like waking up at 4 a.m., working out. I've seen some crazy videos lately. Then earning like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day because it's nonstop working, but then kind of within that talking about how you're not working, but you actually are. And everything is focused on productivity. The thing with productivity is actually all about control. And it's a way in which the ego controls and the way in which we don't actually surrender to life. Very often, the ego will fall back into this narrative of like, you're not doing enough, you're not enough. If you do nothing, you'll be losing money or you'll be losing credibility or status in some way. And there are often narratives that live within the businesses we might work in which aren't overtly stated, but it's things like, if I take annual leave, I won't be considered for that promotion or long service leave. It's that type of chat. And this is a week to really sit in rest and to allow all of that stuff to come up. Rest is a discipline, just as productivity is a discipline. The thing with rest is that rest requires us to give up control. It requires us to kind of like loosen the grip from exerting our willpower and our energy upon the external world, and it asks for us to withdraw that within. And the key this week is to have faith that whether that willpower is exerted or not, you're exactly where you need to be. Something that makes rest really scary, like I said, is that in a way and in a very subconscious way, it's giving up control. It's giving up the like the illusion of control, because somehow when we're busy, somehow when we're productive, there's a subconscious message that goes on, which is that like we're in control of our world, that we're making the effort to be great. You will be great regardless of if you make effort or not. And very often, when we make that effort where it's like us pushing against a circumstance, we end up not being successful, be that because our health gets really impacted by the exertion of will, that we don't get what we want and we blame ourselves. And we actually don't, in those moments where we're really trying to control and we're trying to be productive and exert this energy upon the world, we kind of switch off our intuition and we don't listen to the guidance from the universe. And the universe speaks through tension in the body. The universe speaks through harmony in the mind. Through it speaks through the ability to feel at home within the self. And it's always giving us cues as to whether we're aligned or whether we're not. And when we're exerting that pressure on the external world, it's really hard to listen. It's really hard, and very often we don't want to see the signs the universe is giving us because it goes against the pressure we're exerting. So, that is all to say, this is a week to rest and to consider, like I said at the beginning, consider rest as a discipline of surrendering to something bigger than yourself. Rest is not unproductive, but it does force us to take our hands off that need to control. Without rest, like think of nature. If nature doesn't have winter, it won't be able to bloom in summer. And if it doesn't have winter, it can't regenerate the soil in which it's growing. It can't regenerate itself. It can't be reborn. We're not here to continually express that egoish will upon the world. We have to have moments where we take a step back. We have to have moments where, with that step back and with that forced rest, we might even question, like, who are we? And who am I when I'm not busy? Who am I when I'm not anchored in an idea of being productive? Because this whole concept of productivity is not something our ancestors would have followed. It's something that lives within the consciousness of capitalism, within imperialism, within colonialism. The industrial military complex is built on this exhaustion. And so, in a way, by resting, you go against the system. You actually tap back into your true nature, which will always demand rest from you. And I say that today with the full moon in Virgo because Virgo is all about well being. Virgo rules the nervous and adrenal system and digestion. And so, and with this moon, with the sun sitting with Chiron, who is the wounded healer, and brings through um like opens up our wounds so we know when we need to heal. You can find that last week was already serving you this energy, and when we don't slow down, the universe forces us to, be that through illness, be that through exhaustion, be that through anxiety. And that's really important with this full moon. If you have already felt like you're running on empty, if you have already felt like there's a sense of burnout going on within the body, now's the time to slow down. Even thinking about this week ahead, how you might be able to schedule time to regulate yourself by yourself or in nature. And that can be as simple as like considering a morning meditation practice where maybe you have to get up a little bit earlier, or when you go to bed, or even just scheduling a mental health day to care for yourself and thinking about how that might be something that you schedule for yourself each month. So just know that. Added to that today, oh, and I should say quickly, if you want to know where this Virgo full moon is falling in your chart, the Virgo full moon ritual and reading is now live. There's details below. You'll get a personal written reading, astrology forecast, and sacred practice to help work with that cosmic energy. Now, Venus stationing direct today is really important because we're now in a new cycle as she stations direct. She's exalted. There can be a really big focus this week on how you exchange energy. And you might notice, because of the subconscious and conscious work you have been doing around value, relationships, love, money, finances, since early March, since I think she stationed retrograde on the 2nd of March, you can find that as she stations direct, there's things that just don't fit anymore. That there can be tension with some relationships, with some aspects of how you handle your financial situation, with some aspects of like maybe there was a desire that you had looming around you at the beginning of the year, like a goal you wanted to achieve, something you wanted to attract into your life, and then all of a sudden it's kind of null and void. It really doesn't fit with who you are now. That's Venus bringing you into this next 8-year cycle that she'll be playing out. Enjoy her while she's stationary. It's a weird thing to say, but she'll be stationary for the first half of this week in Pisces. Enjoy the way in which you're getting a glimpse at the spiritual energy that underlies materialism, the way in which material goods, and I include within that relationships, because we can be very transactional in our relationships, even in intimate relationships. I give you this, you give me this. It's kind of this expectation. So just be aware of that and notice how underneath a lot of that energy, there's like the ability to see that none of that will ever satisfy, that there's something deeper that you're looking for to satisfy yourself. Now, if you flick forward through the rest of the week, we've got Saturn conjunct the North Node on Monday, which is huge energy with Cassandra. Two planets, they're both malefic, they're in Pisces, they both bring a level of constriction. And they can bring about big collective change to structures, to hierarchy, to organization. Um, and it can feel like almost a big generational shift that happens with them from Monday, but we'll be feeling it not just for this week. There'll be ripple effects that happen moving forward. And also on Monday, the sun starts its journey again through the zodiac. It will enter Ashwini Nakshatra, which is the start of Aries. So in sidereal astrology, the sun won't enter Aries until Monday, which represents the start of the new solar year. And Ashwini is all about healing. So tapping into that rest energy for the week. On Thursday, Mercury will be conjunct Neptune, so be really discerning with the mind and what you say, as it can be misinterpreted, but also hook into your intuition. It can be heightened. And the Sun will be conjunct Andromeda, our nearest galaxy. And Andromeda is all about freedom. It is a different vibrational energy to our solar system, even to our galaxy. And I'll be running a group healing meditation to work and anchor that energy. There are a couple of spaces left if that feels or that calls to you in any way. I'm wishing you a wonderful week. I hope that you give yourself permission to rest. Even if you're not sure if you need it, even if you have to sit in the guilt of resting, see what comes up for you, and start to see rest as really necessary and something that you're building a discipline around.